Your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit brings you breaking news. Canada may be steering toward one of its boldest trade reversals in years. Ottawa's 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, once a protective wall for automakers, triggered Beijing's counterstrike, crippling tariffs on canola that left prairie farmers reeling. Now the rhetoric is shifting. Prime Minister Mark Carney signals flexibility. Foreign Minister Melanie Joly admits the policy is under review, and both farmers and automakers demand clarity. The stakes span crops, cars, and Canada's economic future. Buckle up, the developments ahead could change everything. How the standoff began, EV tariffs and farm blowback. In October 2024, Canada took a bold gamble, a 100% tariff on Chinese-made electric vehicles. The Trudeau-era move was pitched as a lifeline for Canada's auto sector, buying time for domestic manufacturers struggling to catch up in the global EV race. Policymakers argued that China's meteoric rise was fueled less by competition than by heavy subsidies, threatening to swamp Canadian factories before they could gain traction. But trade wars always strike back. Within months, Beijing retaliated with punishing duties on Canadian agriculture. Canola, peas, and other exports were hit hard, especially canola seed, slammed with a 75.8% tariff. It was a calculated strike at Saskatchewan and the Prairie provinces, where farmers rely on China as a critical market. What began as a protective wall for cars quickly morphed into a two-front economic fight, defending automakers on one side and farmers on the other. Canada learned the hard way. In trade, one industry's shield can become another's sacrifice. And as the shockwaves spread, Ottawa itself began showing cracks in its once iron stance. Ottawa's changing tune, from hardline to hesitation. For months, Ottawa insisted the 100% EV tariff was untouchable, a shield to give Canadian automakers breathing space. But by mid-2025, cracks began to show. Farmers were organizing meetings, lobbying hard, and warning they couldn't survive without China, their largest buyer. The canola industry alone is worth nearly 43 billion Canadian dollars and supports over 200,000 jobs, figures too big to ignore. The first signs of flexibility came with Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe's bold trip to Beijing. Initially criticized, it later earned public thanks from Prime Minister Mark Carney, a nod that Moe's outreach could open doors. Soon after, Foreign Minister Melanie Joly carefully admitted the policy was under review, floating diversification from Japan, South Korea, and Europe. Agriculture Minister Heath MacDonald was even more direct. The tariff itself was on the table. Together, these signals marked a sharp shift. Ottawa was no longer projecting rigid defiance. It was pivoting toward pragmatic adjustment, recognizing that farmers and consumers alike needed relief. And while politics shifted in Ottawa, the auto sector itself was buckling under unintended consequences. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. EV market fallout, policies that backfired. While canola farmers bore the brunt of retaliation, Canada's auto sector was also feeling the squeeze. The 100% tariff, meant to defend automakers, was instead weakening the EV market. By mid-2025, sales had plunged nearly 40% year over year, dropping from over 18% of new registrations to just 8.6% in the second quarter. Consumers faced higher prices and shrinking incentives. Most premium EVs exceeded the federal rebate cap, while provinces pulled back. British Columbia scrapped its program entirely in May, and Quebec narrowly kept its own after public backlash. With few affordable models available, buyers walked away. Chinese EVs, known for cost-effective, tech-rich designs, might have filled the gap, but the tariff priced them out. The result was fewer choices, declining adoption, and faltering momentum toward electrification targets. Ottawa responded by shelving its 2026 zero-emission sales mandate and rolling out relief funds for struggling automakers. Ironically, a policy meant to strengthen Canada's EV sector left it stumbling just as global competition accelerated. And as automakers faltered, prairie farmers continued to endure the harshest blows from China's counterpunch. Prairie fallout. canola in the crosshairs. While automakers stumbled, prairie farmers were hit even harder. Canola, Canada's agricultural crown jewel, became ground zero in the trade war. China's 75.8% tariff on canola seeds slammed the market shut, triggering a 6.5% drop in futures and fears of oversupply. For Saskatchewan, where canola is a lifeline, the blow was devastating. Farmers warned they couldn't survive another season without access to their biggest buyer, worth nearly $5 billion Canadian dollars in exports in 2024. Ottawa tried to project confidence. Agriculture Minister Heath MacDonald pledged potential aid, and Prime Minister Carney pointed to Scott Moe's September trip to Beijing as a step forward. Yet farmers grew more frustrated, convinced their livelihoods had been sacrificed to protect Ontario's auto sector. Prairie premiers demanded relief while federal leaders walked a tightrope. Farmers didn't want subsidies. They wanted restored trade. With every passing day, unsold crops piled up, debt grew, and rural communities faced decline. What started as a tariff shield for cars was now crippling Canada's agricultural heartland. And with tensions at a breaking point, Ottawa now faces a crucial decision about where to steer next. What comes next? Options, pitfalls, and possibilities. Canada is at a crossroads. Hold firm on the 100% EV tariff or pivot toward pragmatism. Full removal would immediately ease tensions, reopening China's vast canola market and reviving farm incomes. It could also unleash affordable Chinese EVs, breathing life into a struggling domestic market. Yet automakers, already squeezed by US tariffs and global rivals, fear a flood of competition. A middle path is partial rollback, easing consumer pain while preserving protection. Ottawa could also diversify, boosting imports from Japan and South Korea, while negotiating concessions from Beijing. Foreign Minister Joly even suggested using tariff relief as leverage, demanding investment from Chinese automakers and Canadian factories, turning crisis into opportunity. The risks are clear: political backlash in Ontario, doubts over China's reliability, and the optics of yielding under pressure. But the rewards, cheaper EVs, restored farm trade, and stronger competition, are equally compelling. The decision will reverberate across farms, factories, and families, shaping Canada's economic identity for years ahead. Which brings us to the big question: will Canada pivot smartly or double down on the tariff wall? Final verdict: a turning point on Canada's trade track. Canada is barreling toward a defining choice: cling to the 100% tariff wall or pivot toward a more flexible strategy. The consequences of the hardline stance are already clear. EV sales have collapsed, affordable models disappeared, and farmers are carrying the heaviest burden. Protection bought time, but it hasn't delivered momentum. A smarter path is taking shape. Ottawa could link tariff relief to tangible wins: restored canola access, firm investment pledges from automakers, including Chinese brands willing to build factories in Canada, and diversified imports from Japan, Korea, and Europe to keep pricing competitive. Done right, this shift could turn a bruising trade standoff into an industrial strategy that strengthens both farms and factories. This decision will resonate across Canada, from dealerships to grain elevators, shaping not just trade policy, but the nation's economic identity in the EV era. Now, we want to hear from you. Should Ottawa scrap the tariff to save farmers, even at automakers' expense? Would you buy a Chinese EV if prices dropped? Should Canada prioritize crops or cars, or balance both? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Piston Pundit so you'll be notified about the next big vehicle updates and upcoming videos. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next pit stop. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's plenty more to explore.